Hello and welcome to Austin FC on the Football Manager 21 beta. I'm Charlie and today's episode is a bit of an update. There has been plenty going on in the save. I just wanted to give you a bit of insight into all the happenings before we head to Soldier Field, Augusti Soldier Field, to take on Raphael Wickie's Chicago Fire in tomorrow's episode. So that will be Saturday. As you can see on the screen there, the Chicago Fire badge has been changed. There's been a lot of talk this week about going to a new badge. I don't know what's wrong with the old one. It looked perfectly serviceable for me, perfectly good. Why would you change? Bit of a crazy decision. And people who are a lot cleverer and a lot smarter than me have been paid a lot of money to change into something that I don't think the fans really want or like. Just put it back to what it was. Austin FC, however, have released their home kit, and I don't have access to it here in the game, obviously, because they are a new side, but it is very similar to Western United's home kit from last season. I think that'll be brought into this season as well. It is the green and black stripes, a little bit like Sassuolo over in Italian Serie A. I think it's a really nice kit, certainly for Western United. So it should be a good one for the MLS as well. The transfer window is open and there have been quite a lot of moves around MLS. Bit of cash spent, mostly by non-MLS clubs if we're honest. Salzburg have signed Brendan Aronson from Philadelphia for $4.7 million. San Jose have lost Kwasishvili to Basel, $2.5 million there, but LA Galaxy are there on the list. German Carno, they've signed him for $2.4 million. Perhaps, though, the most significant transfer has been at DC United. If we have a quick look at their squad, you can see that up front they will be fielding this season a certain Mario Balotelli. There he is, only 6.7k a week. They've done really well to get him for that. 30 years old, 36 caps and 14 goals for the Italian national side. Plenty of under-21 caps to his name as well. So previously he of course was with Inter Milan for many seasons and then to Manchester City, back to the red and black side of Milan, over with Liverpool, then Nice, Marseille, Brescia in Italy, and now he has rocked up at DC United. So the side that did have Wayne Rooney on staff, and he is now, of course, now part of the coaching setup, and indeed in the playing squad of Derby County in the UK, they have basically replaced one superstar with another, and it's really good work, you know, by DC. I did tip them in the column I wrote for A-League FC as a team to manage. I think that DC are a real interesting save in Football Manager 21. They're one of the weaker sides in MLS, but as you can see, the potential is there. You can still attract big name players, and it's up to DC to turn that into something positive, make it into the playoffs this season coming. 3.7 million he's worth. They signed him on a free. I think that is an absolute steal for the DC United squad. Since you were last with us, we have played a couple of games. As I said, they've been friendly fixtures. It was Charleston with a 1-1 draw at the Patriots Point Soccer Complex. That was broadcast on YouTube. I said that I was going to put in a couple of friendlies before we played Miami FC, and I did. That absolutely happened. Here we have at the Austin Bold Stadium, we played Austin Bold, and Cecilio Dominguez missed 2 penalties en route to us achieving a 0-0 draw in front of almost 5,000 fans, to be fair. We then played Austin United away from home, and it was goals from Ashley Williams and Dom Dwyer that saw us over the line there. Another win. We ended pre-season with a 1-1 draw at the FIU Stadium against Miami FC. This time James Valenzuela was on score sheet very late. We actually denied them a win there, and it means that we've only lost one game in pre-season. That came against New England Revolution back on the 19th of January at Torero Stadium. So our only loss, plenty of draws if there. I think that's partly due to the tactics. One of the things that our setup does look to do is to frustrate the opposition. Doesn't give us a whole lot going forward, if we're honest, but I think it'll work better against bigger sides than against the weaker ones. So the likes of Miami FC were probably able to get on the ball, afforded a bit more time and space than they would perhaps be used to. And certainly against the likes of DC United, Nashville, Philadelphia, we will look to counter-attack at pace. Lots of experience in the middle. We have actually made a signing, and it is this chap here, Argentinian Ezequiel Parnasari. He has arrived, and immediately you can see that he is rated 3.5 stars. He's gone straight into the first team as one of our centre-backs alongside Ashley Williams. Previously, career in Argentina, just one season with Deportivo in Venezuela. Plenty of appearances. I think he's got something about him. Started his career off at River. Not the best defender in the game, I would suspect, but plenty of bravery. Look at that, 16. His positioning is pretty good at 14. Work rate 15. I think he's going to be a player that we can depend on. Tackling there of 15. He'll be paired alongside our club captain, Ashley Williams, with Jeff Laurentowicz as our vice captain. That has been confirmed. We also had to submit, you may have seen there on the news item, our roster. That is the final registration period until, I think, it's somewhere mid-season that we can then review things. We've submitted ours, and unfortunately there was no place for Rodney Redez. We had to actually ship him out on loan because we had hit 9 internationals. With the signing of the Argentinian defender, it was determined that it would be Redez to miss out. So we've already sent Guadalupe over to the Austin FC Academy. So he's down there getting some minutes, hopefully this season. Unfortunately, the decision was made. It was down to him and Serginho for the loan out, and I just went for Redez in the end, the Paraguayan. He's gone back to Guarani, where actually he signed from. So he's obviously something of a favourite there with them. He's getting some time on the pitch, and hopefully that means that we've got a season to evaluate where we are. We have picked up a couple of injuries in pre-season, one of them obviously being Parades. He suffered the injury in training late in February, expected to be out for between 6 days and 3 weeks. Not brilliant, not what you want at all. This is what you can see in terms of a medical report. So previous injuries there in 2021, so this year already he's had a groin strain and a pulled calf muscle. Not brilliant, but speaking of people who are perhaps a little injury prone, again Dave Romney is injured. Look at that already in 2021. Gashed lower leg, twisted knee, bruised thigh and 2 tight calves in quick succession. He's in the rehabilitation phase from his injury, expected to be out for just a day, so I don't think will feature against Chicago Fire. He probably could do with 1 or 2 days just to rest up, because it's not been brilliant for him so far. And that led me to the transfer market. Look at our transfer history of players that we've brought in. Having signed Parnasari to come in. You actually spent 675k on him, bit of a big transfer. The player that I needed to sign, if I can see him on this list, which I can't for some reason. That's a bit strange. Let's see if we can locate him. No. It did happen. All transfers. Does it come under trades? Ah, it does. It comes under trades, that's why. It is this player, Hector Jimenez. So we actually went to Columbus Crew originally to sign Fatai Aleshi. He's come in, really good utility man actually in midfield. I wouldn't have a problem sticking him in any of the three positions, be it the central midfield, box-to-box midfielder, deep-lying playmaker, or a defensive midfielder. We went back to Columbus to sign Hector Jimenez. I think you pronounce it with a H, don't you? I don't think it's Jimenez. He will be our specialist left back, actually. I know it looks on his position screen that he can basically play anywhere down either wing, and that did sort of attract me to him, to be honest. He's 32 years old. Key phrase here is that he is American, and therefore he's a type of player that aren't going to cause us too many problems on the registration screen. So previously he was with Columbus for quite a while. As you can see, since 2014, prior to that with the LA Galaxy. So plenty of experience for the 32-year-old. Now he's going to come in at left back and he's due to start tomorrow against Chicago Fire. This will probably be our opening team, whether it changes slightly with Williams and Parnasari swapping roles there, maybe. It just depends. It's difficult this year without the star ratings to really understand how good somebody is for those positions. They really only tell you how good other players would be. So I suppose the best way to do it would be to move them out and then bring them back in, and you can sort of see. On our bench we have all of our big hitters, really, that are not in the starting lineup. The only two that are being, three that are missing out. We've got Ben McCarthy. So we've got a choice between Lopez and McCarthy for the bench goalkeeper position. And then we've got Neil Riley and Ben Feely, who are two strikers. I think as long as we've got Andre Lima on the bench, who can come on for Dom Dwyer, or who can come on for somebody else, possibly one of the central midfielders, and then really push up. I think that is going to be the sort of one substitute we need in the striker position. Don't need to go too overboard there. Both of those lads have been listed for loan, so if there's any interest in them at all, I think we'll then let them go out just to get a bit more game time. One of the things that I did want to do while we were here, we are still of course in the beta, is to have a look at some of the other screens that perhaps don't get as much coverage. You tend to sort of stick between the squad, tactics, scouting and your home screen. So this is the dynamics area, brought in a couple of years ago. Basically it's going to tell you how the cohesion is amongst your team. At the moment, as you can see, for us it's not brilliant, but we are a brand new side, so I'm not too concerned about that. Club atmosphere is good, managerial support is very good, so I'm really pleased with that one. Along the top here we've got the hierarchy. Obvious candidates for team leaders, Ashley Williams and Bakary Sagna, plenty of experience. Over on the right you've got Davy Arnaud, our assistant's feedback. He says that both Williams and Sagna are approaching the end of their careers. And in terms of highly influential, we've got Jeff Larentovich. Now, as you'll just notice these little bands here, that means captain and vice captain. So it's always good to have those players towards the top of your hierarchy. Lots of influence on the squad. Social groups, I'm not entirely convinced by. I don't think they make a massive bit of difference. I could be wrong about that. You know, we've got Ashley Williams down there in the secondary social group B. Not sure it makes much of a difference. You'll find that most of the core social group are made up of players from the nationality that you're playing in. So we are in the US, and obviously, as you can see, Dom Dwyer is an American, as is Larentovich, Riley, McCarthy, So majority there are from the US. In terms of happiness, this just gives you a bit of insight. So the only two players that are concerned with their playing time at the moment is Aleche and Dominguez. Both will be in and out of the team. Mostly, well, Dominguez will be in the team more than I suspect most. So everybody else fairly happy. So most either slightly happy or very happy. I mean, that'll do for me. Don't have to worry about that so much. Code of conduct is agreed at the start of the year. I don't really change this very much. I think I go a bit harsher sometimes. Did certainly with AFC Files last season in Football Manager 20. Not really interested in doing that for the beta. I'm just happy with what they suggested. You've also got team meeting and team talk feedback up there as well. Your team report is an interesting one. That just basically goes into your strengths and weaknesses. And you can find out basically what the problems are in your squad and what are the areas to look at. The assistant has suggested our best 11 there, and I dare say it makes no resemblance of what will actually happen, because Avalar is not starting on the right, Lima up front, and Hector Jimenez is not starting left wing. So it's not the most helpful screen here. In terms of squad depth, that'll just tell you the different options that you have. Who can play where. This is the opinion, as you can see, of David Arnoud. If we just select someone else, Nicholas Alexanderson, one of our coaches, it's much the same, just with a few tweaks here and there. So this is a good place for you to get that star rating. So as you can see, both defenders, left and right, Panasari and Romney would be the two choices, with Sanya, Williams and Aleche all on 3 stars. That is good information to know. Dave Romney was fit, he'd probably be our starting left back, but unfortunately he is not always. This is the next opponent screen. Not a lot of people use this one. I do occasionally, just to have a quick look. There are the new graphics there on the right as well. We've got a lineup and lineup comparison. That'll just give you a bit of insight into where the gaps will be. We both seem to be playing a sort of variation on a theme. So Chicago Fire with 5 at the back and then 4 midfielders, including Sapong. I think he's going to be a very good player. And just 1 striker up front. So that'll be interesting. They look to control possession, we're being told. Whether that is truly the case, we'll soon find out. They've got a couple of injury concerns, as you can see, 1 out for quite long term and then 2 more short term. But always worth having a look around these screens. It's interesting to see what's going on. This is the scout report, just on your future opponents. It's an interesting page. You have to really take it in though. It's not always the one that you'll come to first, especially if you're familiar with the league you're managing in. If you are a fan of the MLS, if you watch Major League Soccer a lot on television, then this type of screen isn't really going to give you much insight, because you kind of already know how Chicago Fire are going to set up. But if you aren't a supporter of the league, if you're not a regular viewer, then this sort of screen is where you can find out quite a lot and just edit your tactics slightly in order to match what you're expecting. As you can see there, Raphael Wiki's preferred formation, 5-2-3 with wing backs and out wide. So as we saw, that is probably what he will approach the game with. Training screen, we should all be aware of that now if you have played Football Manager before. Personally, I'm not a big one for the training. I tend to leave that with the assistant managers to set up, especially in pre-season. There's so much going on in the game. You could genuinely sit here and play for 3 hours and not a single game go through a single one. So do have a look at it. Do get involved, especially when the season starts. That's the time when I start to just tweak things a little bit, especially with the individual units. So some players, especially ones that you're going to play out of position, can be really helped with just focusing on a particular position, role and duty. So for example, let's pick one out. Andre Lima, Dom Dwyer, Ben Feely and James Riley all are being trained as an advanced forward on attack, which is exactly what we have in the team. Dominguez as an inverted winger, but so is, not so is, two wingers, Serginho and Eric Avila. They're both being trained as a winger for the other side, just in case Serginho doesn't get started, get out the blocks, and we need to replace him. So we are considering the future. Mentoring is another place that not a lot of people will visit. It used to be a little bit more simple where you had sort of one-on-one kind of mentoring. Now it's more groups, so you tend to get one experienced player along with three younger. So as you can see there, mentoring group 1, Bakary Sagna, team leader, and then you've got three young lads, Clifford, Lopez and Paredes, none of them over 22. Same with Andre Lima's group, mentoring group 2, he's the influential player, and then you've got Ben Feely, Neil Riley and Serginho, all 20 or 21 years of age. In terms of individual training, this is where you can just select exactly what you want your players to focus on, including additional focus. So if, for example, we've got here, Cesar Lopez, who's a left back, we might want him to have a look at some long throws just to come in off the touchline and really set us forward. In terms of coaches, you can also just edit the assignments here. Generally, rule of thumb is ask assistant to assign. As you can see, it's all spot on, and then just move people around from there to make sure that they're not being overworked. The medical centre is where people will kind of go to look at regarding injuries. I don't think people go in there enough because there's some really good information, especially these increased injury risks. So if you look at this, there's a bit of a list here of players. Worryingly, Hector Jimenez is on that list. Dave Romney, not a shock. He seems to be permanently injured at the minute. There's the risk assessment, just to go through what you expect in the coming weeks. Then we've got current injuries, a bit more information on what's happening there and who's treating the players. Injury history gives you a bit of insight into the different levels of injury throughout the season, and also compares you to the league there on the right. You can see the little chart. Most injuries in MLS is 4 and the fewest injuries is 0. We've got 2 at the minute, so slap bang in the middle. And then the season summary will just tell you how many days that they have missed so far, how much of the time missed during the campaign. Schedule, competition, scouting, transfers, everybody is fairly comfortable there. And then we've got the club info, just to give you a bit of insight. So as you can see, for example, here in Austin, no competition history, no trophies, not very much in terms of landmarks, just the captain and vice captain. So much to do in terms of that. We've also got the stadium here, the Austin FC Stadium, a 20,500 all-seater built this very year. We've got plenty of news. That is just, this is club news, not the wider footballing world. Club vision, always worth keeping an eye on, really. Signing players under the age of 23 is one of our goals here. They're a bit disappointed by that, so that's not great. That's something that we can have a quick look at. Although, I think I've brought in quite a few. At the start of any club, which is what we're doing here with Austin, we're building a club. You can't just rely on youngsters. There's got to be some experience in there as well. And on the right, we've got the criticisms and the pleasing aspects for the board. So they're delighted with the Orlando City trade. I suggest that's Dom Dwyer, but they are concerned about the Nashville trade, which was Dave Romney, as I recall. A board request there, we put a board request in to increase coach wages so that we could attract a few better names. They were just £100 or £200 off, so it wasn't hard just to up that for us. In terms of individual activity, so for example transfer activity, you can see exactly how both the board and fans are reacting. So an interesting one, for example, let's take Serginho from Orlando City B, 190k. The board are pleased with the deal due to the finances mostly. The fans are pleased to sign a player of his calibre. It could turn out to be a potential bargain. So good stuff there. Finances we've kind of delved into slightly, but the big one for me is the league specific. That just shows you where you're up to in terms of the rest of the league. Our team's salary cap spend is 47k out of a possible 78. Now that does sort of fly in the face of what we've got at our disposal, but we've also got our general allocation money and targeted allocation money still there. I am interested to see the reasons why our wage budget is so bad. So we should be up around the 78,000 mark, but the club is currently spending 76. That's about right. Why the wage budget is only 11,644 is something I'm completely confused by. I suspect it's a bug in the system, and as always with Football Manager betas, if there is a bug, it's just down here to report. That'll take you through to the SI forums, and that is something probably that I'll raise. I do raise a few every time they release a new game. We also have, the last thing I'm going to show you is the development centre. So this is where we can look at our youngsters. We've got a few here that we can have a look at, potentially to bring up. I would be interested in seeing their reports. Is it reports? Let's have a look at selection info. So it's in order of position, that's what I like. And there are plenty there. In fact, so I just pick on somebody random, Sean Durkin. Stats aren't bad, you know. There are more yellow stats on that page than I thought there would be. Young 16-year-old American. Unfortunately, he prefers to play in attacking midfield, and as we've seen, I don't really play that position. Clemilson, a defender. Yeah, there he is, big on bravery, 18. Tackling at 13 for a 17-year-old is not bad. Good jumping reach. I'd want to see a bit more in terms of his heading, to be honest. Tomorrow's episode will be the game against Chicago Fire. It's on television, obviously, but it will be broadcast on YouTube. So that'll be Saturday morning, I would expect. So do join us for that and enjoy the game. Let's hope that Austin FC can have a winning start to life in Major League Soccer. I'll see you then.